Well, good afternoon, listeners. You're listening to Lament of Hope podcast, and I'm your host, Danielle Richardson. And I am very honored to be speaking with Maria Rose Evans. She's located in Denver, Colorado, and many of you may actually be familiar with her name. I started knowing about her from her song Drunk Again, which kind of went really viral. And so it came up on my Instagram reel feed one day, and I just was mesmerized by the lyrics of that song. And so I ended up then, going to Spotify and liking it and listening to it all the time. And she sang that song, and I think it touched a bunch of people. I mean, it has over 3.5 million listens on Spotify, her Drunk Again song. And so it was very vivid and raw. And so I was like, I want to find this girl and get to interview her. And so Maria's just kind of starting out, in a sense, her song career. But at the same time, she's already released a few more singles that you can listen to that are on her Spotify. But Maria, I'm very grateful. Thanks for taking the time to do the podcast.
Well, thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's an honor to be able to have somewhat of a platform and for this opportunity to kind of be placed in my lap. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, I was gonna ask you, because obviously when I heard you, your voice is beautiful. Did you always want to do music, or was that something that you kind of discovered later in life, or how did you get into the music industry?
Yeah, I've kind of always been a singer. I used to sing out in the garage when my I thought my parents couldn't hear me. So they obviously did hear me. I was singing in like church choir when I was younger, like the little kids choir. Um and yeah, I think music has been like a pretty lifelong thing. I It's just always kind of been what I do, how I express myself. Um, it's been around for a while. It's been a huge I think emotional outlet for me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, my parents just kind of pushed me in that direction when I was younger. I was homeschooled as well, so it definitely gave me more time and more opportunities for the music stuff, I think, to get better and to be with teachers and to, oh Lord, um, to be able to have that learning experience and the time to be able to dedicate as a kid to all the music stuff. It was great. So
Yeah. Just for listeners too, there are cats going across her lap, which is why
yeah.
she may make some interactive noises. I wanted the songwriting though. Did you write any songs when you were younger, like just for fun, and you would make them up?
They were crap. I wrote little songs about whatever. I don't even remember. They were really, really dumb songs. But when I was maybe 14, 15, started going some more through some more heavy experiences in my life. I did start to kind of channel those experiences into songs, and it was a way to kind of like put it in a little box and to be able to handle whatever situation better. Yeah, so I've, long story short, kind of always been writing songs, but I really, really kind of started to dig my heels in, I'd say around, yeah, 14, 15. And then when I was 18, 19, really, really started digging my heels in, trying to maybe actually do something with it. And since I had been doing it for so long already. Um, I figured, you know what, if this is something that is possible for me or happening, maybe this is a gift that God has given me to be able to do something with. So just try to figure out what path am I being led down and where is this going to take me, you know?
Yeah. Did you did you not think you would pursue music as a career until you were about 18?
I knew I wanted to pursue music as a career probably in middle school.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, I just because it's seriously, it's all I've ever done. I was in other extracurriculars and stuff like art classes, whatever, when I was younger. But the music is what really stuck. Um, yeah. Yeah.
What kind of musicians do you look up to now?
Gosh, the good ones. The ones who I love R&B, like soul music.
Mm,
I listening to like Aretha Franklin and Etta James with my dad. My mom also loved like Prince and so listening to a lot of older music for sure. Um but I think now I mean I still really admire those artists and musicians. It has to do with both the art and what the person is promoting, I guess, or what they're about, you know?
yeah.
Um yeah. Yeah. Does that answer your question? I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm just going.
No, no, it does. I was gonna say, it sounds when you said art, I'm thinking you're probably meaning the story, like what the song is saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I really resonate and appreciate music and songs and artists who uh not that there are songs without meaning per se. Like every song means something.
yeah,
But it depends on how deep you delve into that topic of what you're writing about, you know.
yeah,
I have always leaned towards more writing about the real stuff, I think because writing started out as kind of like a coping mechanism, like therapy for me. Um, and it just kind of it who you are and what you do will eventually like bleed out into other things and other people, and it started just turning into this way of maybe I could create some sort of community of people who resonate with my music, resonate with what I'm talking about and the experiences that I've been through,
mm,
and be able to relate to that in a way. Because I found myself in many situations where it felt like I was the only person on the face of the planet who's experiencing this thing or like sad about this thing or whatever, which is impossible because there's so many people on planet Earth. Like,
yeah,
um, but to be able to find those people to relate to some of these harder topics, maybe taboo things, they're not talked about. They're not put out in the open. So it can be harder to find people who actually relate and have been through those experiences, whether it's for me trying to find somebody to look up to, or maybe for whatever reason somebody is looking up to me because I've been through something and I'm speaking about something that they've experienced as well, you know. Um, I'll
yeah,
throw I'm also a youth worship leader, so I work with middle schoolers and high schoolers all the time. So part of my heart behind almost everything I do is my kids. They remind me, each one of them remind me so much of me in a way when I was younger and going through things.
yeah,
Um, and now to be on the other side of that approach, like in adulthood, doing things, I'm almost 23, and seeing what these kids are going through is like, oh wow, I've dealt with that. And like it sucks in the moment. But
yeah,
I feel like the only job is to tell these kids like you'll make it through. Like it'll get better eventually. Nothing stays bad forever. It's just a season, you know. So
yeah.
I love those kids, man. They're like, it's my favorite part of the week to go and like lead worship with them. I have a couple of them like on the student band and everything. And they're awesome kids and they're so talented. It's crazy.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, it's young people nowadays. I think that's in part why your music spoke to me so much, is like being in the bracket of early 20s and then younger. I think young people now are facing some things that and are experiencing deeper sadness, I think, than previous generations. Not trying to, downplay the pain
But it's
of
just
the past, but there is
nowadays.
just so much stuff nowadays. Um, and to be young is really hard because you're not really allowed to be young, like a kid, you know? You have to grow up really fast most of the time.
Lord knows I did.
And that gives I mean, lots of kids, even that I've met, like they're old souls, you know, but they look really young, but they've gone through tons of stuff. And like you said, like, I think, I mean, specifically for me in the Christian church, it's been hard to find people sometimes who do resonate with the struggles you're going through because a lot of times we want to come across as like perfect and we've got it together and we're following the Bible and we believe in God and so we're rejoicing and so whatever we're experiencing would be shameful to share, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Um, and so I think that's just awesome that your heart for the kids is that to be vulnerable with them so then they can hopefully be vulnerable with you, which I think is the only way to get anywhere, honestly.
I can agree. It's holding secrets and the hard things, hard experiences. I feel like in the end, like I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm only 23, but I feel like in the end, like if I had held on to some of the bad things and experiences that I had been through, like well into my 50s or 60s, I think it probably would have done a lot more damage to me as a person. Um, because just holding the weight of that, even if you give it up to God, and you like you try to, that's why we have other people, it's like we're not
Yeah.
meant to live this life alone. We're meant to do this with the other children of God, everybody else who's we're all kind of going through the same thing. And so what's the it yeah, I just feel like it does more damage to keep all that in and try to deal with it internally than to just walk up to somebody and say like, "Hey, I'm kind of struggling with this," or I'm kind of, it kind of takes off that pressure and kind of that bitterness that can set in if you hold on to things for so long.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was in middle school, I think, was when I started struggling with panic attacks, which is something I've struggled with for years. And I remember being at church in Sunday school, and I was just like, it was happening to me. And it was a huge Sunday school class at the time. And I was like, I have to tell somebody. I am just sitting here and the youth pastor is talking, but I cannot focus. I'm gonna die.
I
Which
know
I
that
mean, of
feeling.
courch I'm not. But I
You're
walked
like,
down
I'll
the
do
steps, yeah,
well.
in front of these 50 kids staring at me, and I just go up to the man as he's talking, and I just stop him and I say, "Excuse me." I said, "I am having a panic attack and I need you to help me." And the guy was like, didn't know what to do. I was like,
This,
"What?" Yeah, he's like, "Should I call your parents? What should I
yeah.
do?" And I'm like, "It's okay, but I need you to know that this is happening to me and I need to just sit off in the corner somewhere. I need to not hide this because I'm like, starting to breathe heavily. I don't feel well. I just want you to know, and I just need your help, that kind of thing." And
And that's
that was embarrassing.
it's to take. Like if a child is dealing with that, that's a hard, it's a level of bravery that like is admirable for sure, to like be able to tell somebody that you're struggling. But for a kid, like they that's hard.
Oh yeah.
That should be less hard. It shouldn't be, because these kids are learning and growing, and
Yeah.
they need support, and you needed that support. So that was a very difficult thing to do. I yeah, I mean, I think I think people could afford to be a little bit more aware of struggles like that. Um, Especially that kids can have struggles like that.
Yeah.
It can happen for no reason, just because that's how your brain is wired, or it can happen for reasons, like some traumatic experience, whatever. But regardless, it should be something that's talked about and put out in the open.
Yeah.
Uh, it's only taboo and scary because you put a blanket over it and put it in the corner and ignore it.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything. It's yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, when you started, you were mentioning 14, 15, when you started becoming a teenager, which I think starting to become like the teen years are really hard. I remember my teen years and I'm like, hey, yeah, that was great. You
Yeah.
know. Um, what for you started really just rocking your boat that you were no, you're going in your middle school, things are okay, and then suddenly you hit the teen high school years and things start rocking for you. What was going on?
I'll say it was a little bit earlier than that. I'd say it was like maybe 11 years old
Okay.
that I started realizing that I was struggling with depression. Um, And that's something just genetic on my mom's side of the family. My abuelita struggled with it. My mom has struggled with it.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just kind of something that was bound to happen, you know. But in my situation, I did not want to let anybody know that this was something that was happening. It is very much something that with the depression and then everything that came along with that, struggles with anxiety, struggles with suicidal ideation, stuff like that. It just all kind of fell in line because I just kept like shoving things down because I sort of felt the pressure to not feel like that, to be okay, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so being able to talk about that was a struggle for sure. And it wasn't like I couldn't talk to my parents about it or couldn't talk to like a youth leader or something like that. It was solely just I was going through so much internally. Um, that it was a better option in my little child brain to just like, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Just move past it.
Yeah.
And that definitely I did lose a friend as well to suicide when I was 11 years old. Um
A close friend?
best friend, yeah. He
Oh,
and I were
wow.
close. And that was the first real experience I think I had with death and somebody dying, somebody close to me too. So that kind of set me down the path of coping mechanisms, numbing. I was a drug addict for like 7 years almost. So from 11 to yeah, 18. Was so teenage years, but times 20 because I was doing drugs at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a coping mechanism is all it was. I did not know what to do with the horrible thoughts I was having and the feelings and kind of being a little bit more of a loner on the outside. I'm an only child as well, so I always kind of felt like that growing up.
Hmm.
That I couldn't quite relate to other kids that well. So it was quite lonely for a little bit. And I did have some close friends throughout that time. Not nearly as close to them as I am now. Because I've shared more with them about like what actually happened during that time and stuff. But yeah, where are we going with this? I'm so sorry. I'm just
No,
talking.
I was wondering, did the when you're with your best friend, like, were you there when that happened? Or,
So I had been the last person to talk to him.
okay.
But no, I was not there. I knew that he was struggling. Um and he was 15, I was 11. So like that's I mean that's a hard thing for kids to go through or to be able to
Oh, yeah.
how do I manage this? How do I, you know, um so and I knew that his mom knew as well that he was struggling. Obviously none of us knew that it would be taken that far. Um Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you
It was,
just get like a call from somebody the next day or
I
something?
did. I got a call, or my mom got a call from one of our teachers. It was martial arts. And my mom got a call and said, like, hey, did you know this kid? Like he committed suicide last night. And I told her no, that I didn't know him. And like because it was this whole thing of like, do you want to go to the funeral? Like, what's all this stuff? And I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking because I did not know how to go to his funeral and like and the okay that my friend is dead. Like that was a I did not know how to cope with that. So again, just pushing it away, pushing it down. Everything's fine. No, I didn't know him. What are you talking about? Even though I did and he was my close friend. But yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't handle that at the time. So
I think, um, I've talked to so many people who I had one guy that I talked to who said that, when he was young, he was in college, his a friend of his, it was like a buddy group, texted him while he was really struggling and no one or called, I should say, and he didn't pick up. Nobody picked up the phone because they were just doing their own thing and they didn't pick up the phone, and then they found out he died that night, and he had been calling people hoping that someone could help him.
Yeah.
Um and just listening to his story, like he was just like it still wrecks him. Like it's not something that he's like you get past like maybe the really bitterness of it, like
Mhm.
how raw it is, but it's
It's
something that sticks with you forever.
yeah.
And I know for me, my I had a family member at one point who tried to do it in front of me and she wasn't successful. But that has defined so many things for me, and kind of having to break down even with my relationship with the Lord, like what do I actually not understand about him because this is how I see the world because of that.
Yeah.
Um And so I totally agree with you. I can't even imagine though being 11 because your brain is like you're still processing, you're still growing up. And so like you don't even have words for things like I'm depressed. People just you don't know what to say.
Yeah. Looking back on myself as a younger, as an 11-year-old now, um, yeah, it's crazy to think like yeah, I have the words for it now. I understand it now because I've matured. My brain has figured out what it's doing. Everything's falling into place. But yeah, my heart breaks for not only little me, but also like these kids that I work with. If any of them have had to go through something like that, it's not supposed to happen, but it does.
Yeah.
And when it does, it's it's these kids shouldn't be going through something like that. It's rough to deal with, and especially if they're keeping it in and not sharing it with like an adult or somebody who can help them process and figure out like what's happening. I think if I would have done that, my grieving process now would have been a lot more normal. Um, but it completely messed up my grieving process and how I view things now, and I'm in therapy working on it. But yeah, those things can really take an effect on, like you said, like who you are as a person. Like those moments can affect how you think 10 years down the line or what decisions you make.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
was
again,
even, did you um start the like when that happened to your friend, did that kind of mark the depression start for you, or were you already struggling with it before that happened?
I was already struggling with it before. I think that experience definitely made it a lot more real. Um, because after that, like the fallout, at least of what happened to me and our other friends, I've lost touch with them since. But for me, yes, it definitely um kind of shot me forward a little bit more into the depression and like and trying to find coping mechanisms and things to kind of numb myself out so I didn't have to think about how horrible and sad all of this was. Um
Yeah.
yeah.
How did you kind of relate to God during that time? Did you find it like, did you find God helpful, or did you find that church and God and the Bible, it was just like very dry and you weren't getting anything helpful out of it at all?
Through those years, I've never like lost my faith or um
Oh, yeah,
like
sure.
like parted ways from trying to do the right thing and be Christ-like and everything. But definitely I was very angry at God for years. And I think it's okay to be angry with God. I think he wants you to be angry at him sometimes because it forces you to ask questions and talk to him and like define your relationship a little bit more. Sorry, cats are fighting and I'm really hoping that this tower thing doesn't hip. I'm just watching them. Sorry. There.
You're fine.
Okay. I gotta like nail that to the wall. Um, Yeah, oh gosh, where were we? So sorry. I'm just trying to make sure things don't break in my apartment.
No, you were saying that you didn't ever lose your faith.
Oh yeah.
You were wrestling with God during this time.
Sure. I mean, he was always there, definitely. I recall many moments into my teenage years, like 15, 16, 17, in there, where I was really, really, really in the depths of what I was going through. And I remember being high on several occasions and like way too high and praying, like, is this all there really is this where I'm gonna be? Like, is this all that there is? And like I did not know how to move forward out of that. I will say there was a moment when I was 18, in 2020, June 1st of 2020. Another friend of mine, the evening before, had just committed suicide. And that was a moment for me where I was on a lot of things, but I did write a song, and it was more of a prayer. It started as a prayer and then turned into a song. Of just like, God, don't let me be in this place for forever, you know? Like there
Hmm.
has to be something better than this, some way out of this. And that's the day that I decided to get sober, and that there was that if I'm still here and if I'm still alive and breathing, like there must be some reason. Um, and I I think I decided to, like, for all the people that I've lost along the way, all the friends that I had, that it had to be for them too, because they no longer had a voice, a message to share, you know. So it's a heavy responsibility, but I placed that on myself, because I'm over it. I'm over kids struggling all the time and not having an outlet or not having people to talk to, or like, I'm sick of hearing the same story over and over. I'm sick of hearing my story over and over in these kids. Um, and it's just awful. And if there's something that I can do about it, which I think is just getting it out in the open, and especially in the Christian realm, in the church realm, you know.
Well, I was
Um,
gonna ask, were all these, because you've mentioned two, did you lose more than two friends to suicide?
I have lost many friends to suicide, yeah.
Were they Christian friends?
Some of them were, two or three of them were,
Because
a lot of,
that's just powerful.
yeah.
It's so interesting because, people are like Christians that they're not gonna do that kind of thing. It's like, no, you don't understand. We're human.
Yeah,
We
just,
are saved because of Jesus, but we don't become different in like we still have the struggles. We still are human. We're still living on earth. We're
I
still experiencing all
strive
those things.
Christ-like and strive to do
Yeah.
the Bible, and we all we can do is our best, because we will never be perfect. But that's been paid for. That's okay. Like, to say that you will never be perfect is not a bad thing. It just means we're human, and that we're gonna walk through this life, um, with struggles, but that it's not the end of the world, because we have this hope, this extra thing to hang on to, that maybe not everybody else does, who doesn't have this faith, or doesn't go to church or whatever. I We have something that can hopefully kind of bring us through, and it's not ah, it's not like a fix all, like, oh, you're magically fixed, like you've been baptized and now you're never going to be depressed anymore. Like,
Yeah.
people who have the closest walk with Christ are still going to walk through difficult things in life. That's how sin works. That is the world we live in. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that those people are then lesser than, because they're walking through struggles and still trying to walk with Christ.
Yeah.
Um, it,
Amen. True.
if you're a person and you're going through stuff, and I think that the Christianity maybe needs to learn to be a little bit more accepting of that. Um, the church that I'm at now, currently is the first church that I've experienced where they really do accept you as you are. Like you don't have to be at this certain standard before you start taking these steps towards Jesus. It's it's completely, it reminds me of the one of my favorite songs is Come As You Are by David Crowder. Just because I think that's the whole point. The whole point is to gather people together and say, hey, we know you're going through these struggles. We know that like life is kicking your butt, but here's this hope for you. Like here's this thing that you can strive for and reach for and hopefully will bring you through. Like it's not just a dead world that we live in, you know. I think that's truly the whole point. It's not how many good things can you do in your life? How good of a person are you? How like, it's I ultimately the Lord cares about us having a relationship with him, each of us having an individual relationship with him. And that is going to look different for everybody. But as long as your sights are focused on the Lord, like and you're doing what he is guiding you to do, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, you know?
Yeah. And as you said, I mean, Christ in Scripture, if you did, if you believe in Scripture, Christ said he already paid. And so for your sins, so those sins you're doing, the sins you will do, it's not that we just go to the heck with it, I'll just do whatever I want. But it's this extra, it's this truth that that's not what defines you. And I think that's what's crippling about our struggles. I know for me, is there so many times that I'm like, I am this. I am this. Like, this is me. This is the struggles I'm experiencing are who I am. And it just makes it so overwhelming. But then when I go, wait a minute, that's not true because these struggles have been washed by Christ. These struggles have been taken on. He took all of them on for me. I'm not defined by that. I'm defined by his victory.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
that is I mean, you say it and it's not easy to remind yourself, but like that's the truth. But it's when we're focusing so much on our struggles and that's where I go a lot. And so it's hard, but just that overwhelming sense of hopelessness.
Right.
And I was gonna ask you when you were talking about the period when you were going through drugs, I mean, how did you feel during that time? Like, were you feeling like self-loathing? Were you feeling, I know you mentioned you felt angry at God. Um, how was kind of your day-to-day life
Yeah,
emotionally?
not good.
Yeah.
Say the least. To be quite honest, there are a couple of years in there that I don't remember at all. I've got a lot of memory blocks that as I'm going through therapy and just getting older, that more things are coming. But to answer your question, pretty much the only emotion that I remember was just hurt. Um, and I think I'm a type of person who I feel my own feelings, but I also feel everybody else's feelings. You
Yeah.
tell me something sad, I'm gonna cry. Um, so I think having put myself in those situations with the drug abuse and everything, and meeting other people who also were struggling with either things similar to me or worse, or it was just a world of hurt that I lived in, because I was not only hurting for myself and trying to get myself out of this place, but also I was hearing and secondhand experiencing just some really dark things that this world has,
Yeah.
um, and hurting for those people at the same time. Yeah, it was a very dark experience that I put myself through. But on the other side of it, yeah, it's happened, but I'm
Yeah.
still working through moving through it, and I I truly think that God allowed me to go through some of those things so that I could, one, understand better, and two, be able to have the potential to relate to people because Lord knows mine is not the only story like that, you know.
Yeah.
There are tons and tons of other people, kids, teenagers, whatever, who are experiencing those things, you know, not only struggles with substance abuse, but the reason behind that, like why that started to begin with. And there always is a reason. They're all different, but there always is like a primary, like, this is what pushed me over the edge, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Did your parents know at all about the struggles you were going through?
I was really really scared to tell them, and not because of them, just because of the I think because of the amount of shame that I felt myself of growing up in a Christian family. My parents are great, went to church. I grew up in Sunday school, like I was in the youth group and everything. Yet I've kind of got like this other life that I was living on the side, like Hannah Montana, and like I it was very shameful at the time. And it still can be. I try not to think about it in that respect since I'm very much past it. And I know I'm a better person now than I was. It's that being defined by something, right?
Yeah.
Um, letting it define who I am anymore. It's definitely still a thing that I'm working through. Um, and it's something that I still struggle with. I don't believe all the time, but I'm working on it. But yeah, I did not start sharing anything about the experiences that I had been through as a teenager until maybe 3 years ago. So when I was 20 around, started actually like explaining to some of my close friends what had happened and started like writing songs about it, being a little bit more open, talking to like my boss at my church and having his like spiritual leadership and yeah, it wasn't until recently. So
How did your parent were you able to tell your parents at that point too? Anything?
they know not everything because it's it's hard to look at your mom and tell your
Oh
mom like
yeah, sure.
this really bad thing. Like, I not only does it hurt me, but I don't want to see her face when I have to tell her like that her daughter was hurt. Like, I can't imagine having a child and them telling me I'd be livid but also heartbroken. So I keep a lot of the like details to myself and my therapists. Because I do want to protect the people that I love, especially my parents, you know, from that. But they are aware of like, you know, the gist of it. That I did have a substance abuse issue, that I had been through some like sexual harassment and abuse before from other people. So they're somewhat aware, but yeah.
So when for you, when you were said you were 18 and you were singing, writing that song and you were really high and you're just like, I'm gonna change this. I don't want to do this anymore. Not just for me, but for my friends who aren't here, who should be. Um, how did that recovery for you look like? Because I can only imagine, I mean, first the withdrawal from all of that stuff, and then on top of that, fighting against what you've been doing for 8 years of your life or 7 years of your life. What was that process like? How did you do that?
It was, so I'm now approaching almost 5 years sober. And it was a doozy for sure. The first couple of months, it honestly felt great. I was not experiencing any withdrawals. I was just fully like full steam ahead. I had just gotten a job as the youth worship leader at my old church. Um, so I was really, really trying to lean into that. I've found that throughout the years, it gets harder and harder each year.
Wow.
Um, as I'm getting older, and having to, just experience the regular things that you experience in your late teens, early 20s, and just growing. But having already had a struggle with like numbing things out and having a coping mechanism, and then that being taken away, and now I'm going through the adult version of hard things,
Yeah.
um, is definitely like there are a lot of times where I'm like, I just want to get high. I just want to pretend like nothing else exists. But those are the moments that I'm like, no, I'm here where I am now for a reason, and it's like this too shall pass, um it's none of those bad moments ever last forever. It sure as hell feels like it will in the moment, but I've learned to try and kind of take myself out and see it from like a third party perspective, and
Hmm.
um kind of look at, okay, yeah, she's struggling with this right now, but like 2 days from now this thing is coming up, and that's gonna like I get to go to work and hang out with all my kids. Like that's gonna take me out of it. That's gonna take me out of my own head and everything that's going on in here. Um it's yeah, just kind of put the voices away for a second to be able to keep moving, and pray about it, and ask God to just like, hey, give me peace in this one moment. Peace, perseverance, and wisdom are the three things that I always pray for.
Hmm.
But that's what these birds represent on my arm.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, all my tattoos like mean something. But yeah, I've always kind of just prayed that, hey, get me through this one moment, and then get me through the next moment, and then get me through the next moment. I Not everybody has to live like that, but some of us with brains that work like this do, and that's okay, because I feel like it gives you a closer connection. I'm talking to God all the time, all day, every day. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not feeling good. I need your help with this. Or like, hey, can you please make this happen? Or whatever, And it really has brought me closer to God. I think if I had not if the Lord had not given me the strength to put those things down when I was 18, I don't know where I would be now. That's scary to think about where I would be now, but um I my looking at it now, it's funny that you asked, but like, yeah, looking at it now, my relationship with the Lord is it's so good, dude. Like I'm never alone ever, and that's like my biggest fear is being alone and being like left unloved, and that's not a factor anymore.
Hmm.
So yeah.
When you're talking about the struggles you're going for, the adult struggles, what struggle do you find really hard in your 20s?
Defining myself as a person.
Hmm.
um Figuring out, I think, who I want to be. I tried on a lot of different personalities when I was younger. And figuring out like who I am, and what I want to stand for, and what beliefs, and what beliefs I want to bring into my life, as I get older. Um, and therefore what I will kind of bleed out onto other people, like whatever I believe and take as truth is whoever I interact with is going to have a taste of that.
Yeah.
um so again, like figuring out like, okay, God, where am I going? Like, what am I supposed to do? What's the right thing here? What's the truth? And figuring that out, along with dealing with all the things that have happened in the past, and like some flashbacks, some trauma stuff. I have CPTSD, and um trying to deal with that all at the same time as moving forward. I kind of always feel like I'm being pulled in two different directions. Like
Yeah.
dealing with stuff in the past, dealing with stuff that when I was younger, but also I'm only 23 and I feel like I'm 50. I feel like I lived like 30 decades already. And but I still am so young and still have so much left to do. So kind of, yeah, coping with the past as well as trying to move forward, I think. Um,
Yeah.
at such a young age, I feel like people don't usually shouldn't have to do that until, yeah, they're well into their like 40s, 50s, having to deal with, oh, I did that stupid thing when I was in my 30s, like have to deal with that, but keep trekking forward. But no, I've got a world of hurt back there that I'm pushing the closet doors in on, but that I gotta, slowly bring out, slowly deal with it. Um, and I think it'll certainly get harder as I continue to get older. But it's not so daunting anymore. It's not this huge scary thing. It's just okay, I'm gonna have more things to deal with. I'm gonna walk through life and as it comes, I'm gonna deal with it, you know?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's, I mean, a gift in a way that you're getting to do it now because, like you said, with the kids that you're talking to, you're getting stronger in the experiences you experienced and how to talk about them and how to process them. And so by the time you're maybe 35, you're going to have been able to know so much more about it and
Yeah.
yourself that you'll have that strength and that confidence to be able to share with other people. Like when I your song, Drunk Again, is so vulnerable. I think that's why it hit me so much, is because I was like, I couldn't relate to the alcohol aspect of the song, but the drunk for me was something else.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she's got to be so courageous to write these lyrics and then go out there on this Songhouse Collective and like get recorded.
It's
And
hard.
then you like sang in front of all these people in this little intimate setting, which I would find very intimidating.
It was.
And then it goes viral and all these people are listening to you and like, but it was so like just tears. I mean, tears in my eyes. My husband and I even were listening to it and he was like, "Wow, I've just never heard a song like that before." And it was like, that's my struggle. And like the way you were for people who are not listening, please look this song up. But it's like the way you were going back and forth between like, here I am struggling, but there's my Bible next to me. Here I am struggling, but here I am praying at the same time. It's like that is so much the walk, especially of a believer who's walking with an addiction or who's walking with a struggle that is just perpetually the thorn in their side for who knows how long. And I was gonna ask you, what made you decide that you were ready to do that? And how did you write that song? Like how did that come into conception for you?
I wasn't ready to do it, is the thing. Um, I I I was placed in a room with a whole bunch of other writers in Tennessee. Tyler Ward. I've known him for a little bit. Met him a couple times when I was 16. Um, and he was just like, "All right, we're gonna write something." And I was like, "Okay, cool. What are we gonna write about?" And he was like, "Just start talking. Just start." I was like, "Okay." And then I just started talking. And then I started crying, and then we all started praying, and it was like it literally just kind of happened. I think I don't think it wasn't it was just God. It was God saying like, "Hey, let this out now. This is important." And obviously it was because it started this whole thing and now yeah, like you said it has like 3.5 million streams on Spotify, which is crazy because I'm nobody. I did not think that like this is something that I've always wanted, obviously, but it's not something that I ever thought was actually possible or something that I thought I was deserving of or and again, I take it so seriously because it is such a heavy responsibility, I feel like, to basically be ministering to people. And I never, ever
Yeah.
thought I would be that type. I am very introverted. I'm gonna go hide in the corner. Please don't talk to me. I'm gonna go pet your dog, like instead of talk to people. Like I'm not that type of person. So kind of being pushed into this scenario where I all of a sudden had an opportunity to kind of share a little bit. I remember specifically I did not want to go to Nashville for that trip. I did not want to go. I cried to my mom on the way to the airport. I was like, can we, I know it's a lot of money, but can we please cancel the flight? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I went, cried my first night there because I also get very homesick. I missed my cats. Um,
Oh,
and
I
then
miss mine too.
and then I remember being like, I I'm here, obviously for a reason, whatever reason it might be. I might not like it, but I remember thinking, I just have to be completely honest on this trip. And I was it's seriously so much a God thing. I was not prepared to like start sharing with these strangers that I had just met, like, hey, here's some really awful things that I've been through. How about you? You know? It's not really like small talk conversation, not things that you start out with people.
Is that
But
what Songhouse Collective is like a camp for people who love music to share and then write songs? Is like
yeah,
that kind of
pretty much. So Tyler will invite some songwriters, some artists, and we'll
Hmm.
all get paired in like different groups and stuff for co-writes and everything. But music is a very emotional thing.
Oh
There's
yeah.
no way uh, with any type of music. I feel like I wouldn't be amiss by saying like there's no way to not have emotion in music. I've always had like such a close connection with all my music teachers emotionally because it's when you're playing an instrument or especially when your instrument is inside of you, it oh my God, there's so much going on. Like I play piano and violin and cello as well. And
Oh
the
wow.
of having holding an instrument, like you can put emotion into it for sure, but having an instrument that's literally inside of me that's connected to my brain, that's like it's crazy. But being able uh to use that and to share it, I, I wasn't ready for sure. God told me, you're ready now. Um, it was a crazy experience for sure. And I'm as scary as it still is, at the prospect of like what's happening here and the fact that people are still listening to this song and still gaining something from it is absolutely bonkers to me. But I feel so privileged and so lucky to be able to be in a place like this where I, for whatever reason, all of a sudden am able to share a little bit more about this stuff. I truly think it's because God wants me to help whoever. I that's truly my heart is like I don't want people going through the same crap that I did, you know? And if they do, like I nobody should ever feel like they're like alone, you know, or like they're trying to figure all this stuff out by themselves and nobody else gets it and nobody can relate or nobody can like you know what you were talking about. I've been through so many nights where I call everybody on my contact list because I feel like I'm gonna do something stupid or feel like I just need to talk to somebody and nobody's answered. I've been through those nights.
Yeah.
But having some of the music that I listen to, 21 Pilots is one of my favorite bands.
So
They
good.
brought me through middle. Oh my God, I would kill to meet Tyler, Joseph, and Josh. Oh my God. And I love them so much. I went to one of their concerts and it is the best concert I think I've ever been through. They played for almost 3 hours. It was great.
Wow.
Um, but like artists like them who just who speak the truth and it's good music, but also there is something so real about the message. If you really look at like the lyrics, I think that's my goal is like I want to make good music, stuff that people can bop to, whatever. But when you look a little deeper, it's like actually something really important that I want to say, or like something to encourage other people or something to just, get my own stuff out there and say, hey, I've been through this, I've done this, whatever. Like, it might be feeling shame about it. Some of my music is a little bit darker because it's dealing with those darker thoughts that I have or darker situations or, um, and I think that's okay though. I don't think there shouldn't be shame is not something that's from the Lord. It's something that uh eats away at us because it's the devil trying to say like, hey, you're an awful person, or you're this or you're that, or you did this, whatever. And it's not something to be defined by. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Maria, I'm so blessed. I mean, I've got to tell you, I just really wanted to meet you after hearing this song because I
Those
could tell from the way that you sung. Like you were just, I was like, that's a very vulnerable Christian right there who's willing to say that she struggles and who's willing to be open about it and encourage people. And as you said, I mean, there's so many people you're ministering to you may never meet in your entire life. And that's just really a huge gift and fascinating that the Lord's given you that opportunity.
fascinating to
So,
me too. I'm like, God, why?
yeah.
Why me? Pardon? Feel like
But
Jonah here.
I want to thank you, and I'm so excited to see what other stuff you come out with because I see you're starting to come out with more things. So I'm really excited for you.
I do have another song coming out in the next couple of weeks here. So
Okay. Then we're all at listeners be glued because there's go check her out. I definitely will have her a link to her Instagram, her music page, because that's where she posts a lot of her stuff. But Maria, thank you so much, and I so blessed, and it was so nice to see your cats. I have a cat too. He's
yeah.
taking a bath on this side.
Yeah,
So,
they're there. I really have to screw that thing to the wall. They're gonna break it.
well, I hope you have a good day, and thanks so much.
Me too. Yeah, seriously, thank you for the opportunity. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks for reaching out so many times and poking me. I know it takes a little bit because I'm like, I don't want to do stuff, but thanks. I appreciate it. This was great.
You're welcome. I am always glad to give pokes. If you need, I would call me up
Okay.
anytime.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Take care.